Scorpio, there's a date marked on the invisible calendar of your life, the last day of September. This day won't be like any other day you've ever lived. On this specific day, something you buried long ago will rise from the earth. Something you thought you'd left behind, overcome, forgotten. But the truth is, some things never die completely. They just wait for the right moment to resurface. And that moment has arrived. While you went on with your life, believing you had turned the page on certain chapters, the universe was working behind the scenes, arranging an inevitable encounter between you and something from your past. It could be a person you loved and lost. It could be a truth that was hidden from you. It could be a consequence of old choices finally manifesting. It could be an opportunity you missed returning completely unexpectedly. The last day of September carries an energy of reckoning, not in the sense of punishment, but in the sense of closure, of resolution, of finally facing what was left unfinished. Scorpio, you know better than anyone the weight of unresolved matters. They cling to your soul like shadows, following you even when you try to ignore them. And on this day, those shadows will take tangible form. That premonition you can't quite put your finger on, but that makes you look over your shoulder, that growing uneasiness that wakes you in the middle of the night with your heart racing. It's not paranoia, it's your Scorpio nature picking up on the invisible currents moving toward you. What will happen on the last day of September is no accident. It is the result of a process that began much earlier than you might think, perhaps years ago, perhaps decades. Energies were set in motion, words were spoken, actions were taken, and now the circle is closing. And you are at the center of this circle, about to receive information, an encounter, or a revelation that will change your understanding of a significant part of your history. Scorpio, you've always known that nothing in life happens by chance, that everything has a deeper purpose, even when we can't see it at the time. The last day of September will prove this so clearly, so undeniably, it will take your breath away. You'll look back and see how each piece fit together perfectly to bring you to this moment of revelation. For Scorpios born between October 23rd and November 2nd, what comes back from the past is connected to a relationship that ended abruptly or confusingly. Someone will reappear, or a truth about that relationship will be revealed. For those born between November 3rd and 12th, the return is linked to family or lineage issues. Secrets that have been kept for generations may finally emerge. For those born between November 13th and 21st, what resurfaces is related to talents or passions you abandoned, but never truly abandoned you. The intensity of what will happen on that particular day is directly related to how much you've tried to suppress or deny certain truths about your past. The deeper you've buried something, the more powerful its resurrection will be. Scorpio has this tendency to lock things away in hermetic compartments within themselves, believing that if they don't look at them, they'll cease to exist. But they don't. They just ferment in the darkness, gaining strength. The last day of September will force you to look squarely at what you've been avoiding. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. It may even be painful. But it will also be necessary and ultimately liberating, because you can't truly move forward carrying the weight of everything left unfinished. That weight slows you down, drains you, prevents you from fully accessing your power. There's a specific person who's been thinking about you with increasing frequency. Someone from your past who carries something unsaid, something unresolved between you. This person may be struggling internally about whether or not to reach out to you. And on the last day of September, this struggle will end, whether by irresistible impulse, synchronicity, or some external circumstance. You will find each other, physically or energetically. When this encounter happens, you'll instantly sense it's no coincidence. There'll be an electric charge in the air, an intensity only Scorpios recognize as a sign that something important is happening. Your emotions may run high. Memories you thought you'd forgotten will flood your consciousness with vivid, clear details. The conversation that follows, whether through words, glances, or the charged silence between you, will reveal things that change your perspective on an entire period of your life. You may discover that someone loved you in ways you never knew, that someone betrayed you in ways you never suspected, that a situation you interpreted one way had a completely different reality. Scorpio, the truth that will emerge on the last day of September will not be gentle or soft. Scorpio truths never are. They are raw, intense, and transformative. They don't leave you where they found you. They force you to evolve, even when you resist, even when it hurts. I know that as you listen to me, you're feeling that tightness in your chest, that sense of recognition mixed with fear, because you already know, even without details, that there's something unresolved waiting for you. Something you've been avoiding facing because it hurts too much, or because you were afraid of what you might discover. Leave a comment now saying, "I know exactly what's left unfinished, and I'm ready to tackle it." It doesn't matter if you don't know all the details yet. It doesn't matter if you still feel afraid. What matters is that you recognize that something needs to be resolved and that you're willing to go through this process, no matter how intense it may be. When you write this, you're declaring to the universe that you're ready to receive what needs to be revealed, and your courage in admitting this can inspire other Scorpios who also carry silent burdens from the past. Right now, your willingness to face the truth is the first step toward your liberation. The last day of September marks the end of a specific karmic cycle in your life. Karma isn't punishment, it's simply the universe ensuring that nothing remains eternally unresolved. Every action generates a reaction. Every unspoken word eventually finds a voice. Every repressed feeling eventually finds expression, and all accounts are eventually settled. You may have done things in the past that weigh on your conscience, things you've never admitted to anyone, words you said with the intention of hurting, but that hurt more than you realized, choices that impacted others in ways you'd rather not see. The last day of September can bring these things back to the surface so you can finally make peace with them, with yourself, and with those affected. Or perhaps you're the one who was hurt, betrayed, abandoned. Perhaps you're the one carrying the pain of unrighted injustices. In that case, the last day of September could bring the recognition you've always deserved, the validation of your pain, or even an apology you never expected to receive, but secretly always wanted. Cosmic justice works in mysterious ways. Sometimes it comes as direct consequences, sometimes as opportunities for redemption, sometimes as revelations that change everything. But it always comes. And for you, Scorpio, it comes on the last day of September. There's also the possibility that what's coming back from the past is something you let go prematurely, an opportunity you turned down out of fear, a relationship you sabotaged because you didn't believe you deserved it, a dream you abandoned because someone convinced you it was impossible. The last day of September could be the universe giving you a second chance, but this time you'll have to make different choices. If this is the case, you'll recognize the opportunity immediately. You'll feel that mix of excitement and terror that comes when something you've always wanted suddenly becomes possible. Your first reaction might be to retreat, protect yourself, say no out of pure defensive reflex. But I'm asking you now, don't do that. Don't let fear steal you away again. Scorpio, your nature makes you intensely protective of your heart. You've built emotional fortresses so solid that sometimes even you can't penetrate them. You pride yourself on your ability to survive alone, to not need anyone, to be self-sufficient in all things. But this strength has become a prison. The last day of September will test whether you're ready to let down those defenses, to be vulnerable again, to risk being hurt again, because the alternative, remaining eternally protected but also eternally isolated, is worse than any wound. The person or situation that will emerge from your past brings with it a silent but crucial question. Have you learned anything? Have you changed? Are you ready to do things differently, or will you repeat the same patterns that led to the end the first time? This isn't a question you can answer now, in the abstract. You'll only know the answer when you're in the moment, feeling the intensity, facing the real choice. But I want you to know that you're allowed to choose differently this time, that you're not stuck in old patterns just because they've been your patterns for so long. What happens on the last day of September will also reveal who you've become since your last encounter with that person or situation. You'll realize how much you've evolved or how much you're still stuck in the same emotional places. It'll be like looking into a mirror that reflects not your physical appearance, but your inner landscape. And depending on what you see in that mirror, you'll have to make choices about what to hold on to and what to finally release. Old angers you've harbored for years may lose their power when you see the situation from a more mature perspective. Or they may intensify if you realize you've become even more trapped in resentment. Scorpio, here's a truth you need to hear. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. You know this intellectually, but your Scorpio heart has a hard time letting go. Because letting go feels like letting the person get away with what they did. But the truth is, holding on doesn't hurt the person. It only hurts you. The last day of September could be your opportunity to finally let go. Not because the person deserves your forgiveness, they may not, but because you deserve peace. You deserve to stop carrying this burden. You deserve to reclaim all the energy you've wasted feeding this flame of pain or anger. There's also the possibility that you'll discover on the last day of September that something you've believed for years simply wasn't true. That you've constructed an entire narrative about a situation based on incomplete or distorted information, and that the real truth is entirely different and changes everything. This may be the hardest revelation of all, because it means you've invested years of your emotional life in something based on a misinterpretation of reality, that you've carried unnecessary pain, that you've punished people, including yourself, for things that didn't happen the way you thought. If this is the case, be kind to yourself. You worked with the information you had at the time. You did the best you could with the level of awareness you possessed at that moment. And now you have the opportunity to correct, to make amends, to start over based on actual truth rather than perceived truth. The last day of September can also bring the closure you've been seeking for years. That final conversation that never happened, that moment of clarity about why things ended the way they did, that opportunity to say what always remained unsaid. And when you finally have that closure, it will feel like a huge weight has been lifted from your shoulders, like you can finally breathe fully, like a door that has been ajar for years has finally closed, allowing you to move fully into the next chapter. But be careful. Closure doesn't always come in the form we expect or want. Sometimes it comes through silence instead of words. Sometimes through acceptance instead of explanation. Sometimes through realizing that you no longer need answers because you've evolved beyond the point where those answers matter. Scorpio, in the days leading up to the last day of September, you'll feel your intensity growing. Your emotions will be closer to the surface. Your dreams will become more vivid and symbolic. You may have sudden insights into old situations. Memories may emerge out of nowhere with surprising intensity. Don't fight it. Don't try to repress or control it. Your system is preparing to process something important. It's bringing material from the subconscious into consciousness, so you can finally deal with it fully. Trust the process, even when it feels uncomfortable. Also pay special attention to synchronicities during this time. Songs that play at just the right moment, with lyrics that speak precisely to your situation. Conversations you overhear that contain exactly the information you needed. Books or movies that cross your path and resonate deeply with what you're experiencing. These aren't coincidences. They're signs that you're on the right path, that you're in tune with what needs to happen. The universe is trying to prepare you, give you clues, and strengthen you for what's coming. The last day of September can also bring revelations about patterns you've been repeating throughout your life. You may suddenly realize that the situation you're facing now is essentially the same one you've faced multiple times before. just with different people and circumstances. And that until you break the pattern, it will continue to repeat itself. This realization can be humbling, but also empowering, because if the pattern is within you, it means you have the power to change it. You are not at the mercy of external circumstances or other people's behaviors. You can choose to respond differently, act differently, be different. Scorpio, what makes the last day of September so significant for you specifically is that Scorpio is the sign of death and rebirth, and this day marks a symbolic death. The death of a version of you that was trapped in the past, the death of old patterns, the death of narratives that no longer serve, the death of relationships that existed only as ghosts. And when something dies, space is created for something new to be born. What will be born in you after the last day of September will be a freer, truer, more powerful version of who you are. A version that is no longer carrying the weight of unresolved issues. A version that has made peace with its past and can now move fully into its future. The transformation won't be instantaneous or magical. The last day of September plants a seed. What grows from that seed depends on how you nurture it in the following months. But the seed is important. It's the beginning. It's the turning point you'll look back on and recognize as the moment everything changed. Also, prepare yourself for the possibility that what happens on the last day of September won't be what you expect or want. The universe doesn't always give us what we want, but it always gives us what we need. Trust that. Even if it seems cruel or unfair at the moment, there is a greater wisdom at work. You may discover truths you'd rather not know. You may have to face aspects of yourself you'd rather keep hidden. You may have to make difficult choices between what's comfortable and what's right. But this is all part of your evolutionary process. Scorpio, you were born for intensity, for depth, for transformation. You're not here to live a superficial or easy life. You're here to dive into places others fear to go, to face truths others avoid, to transform pain into power. The last day of September will give you abundant material to work on your personal alchemy. It will give you the opportunity to take something that was destructive or painful and transform it into something that strengthens you. This is your specialty. It's what you do best. You may feel emotionally exhausted, as if you've been through a battle. In a sense, you have. The battle between who you were and who you are becoming, between the past and the future, between fear and courage. Be patient with yourself during this time. Don't expect to process everything immediately. Major revelations and transformations take time to fully integrate. Give yourself this time. Give yourself grace. And remember, whatever is revealed or resolved on the last day of September, you have the strength to handle it. Scorpio is the most resilient sign of the zodiac. You survive things that would destroy others. You regenerate from ashes. You turn poison into medicine. This is your nature. This is your power. And the last day of September will remind you of this in a way that will never make you doubt it again. If you felt a thrill, a sense of recognition, a growing certainty as you read these words, it confirms that this message is for you, that there is truly something significant waiting for you on the last day of September. Don't ignore this feeling. Don't minimize its importance. Simply share in the comments, "I'm paying attention." That's all you need to say. But by saying it, you're declaring to the universe that you're aware, that you're prepared, that you're ready to receive whatever needs to be revealed or resolved. Subscribe to the channel, because what happens on the last day of September isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. You'll need guidance on how to process, integrate, and act on what you discover. The last day of September is approaching. What was buried is resurfacing. What was left unfinished is seeking completion. And you, Scorpio, are at the center of this transformative storm. Pay close attention. Every detail matters. Every synchronicity is a sign. And when the day finally arrives, trust that you have exactly what you need to handle whatever comes your way.